Warning, the material about to be exposed to is foreign to the minds of individuals who are limited in their capacity to understand the actual reality of power around them, just as you and everyone else alive currently are. What you're about to hear are opinions, suppositions, like gospel, or scientific proofs, not infallible certainties. Brace yourself for incoming opinions that could confirm or deny your preferential view of the reality of power. Brace yourself for fallible material, fallible opinions, and values reflected, but nonetheless variably firmly held. We do not apologize to anyone in NFL. We do not apologize for daring to express our views and impressions of what we believe is and what we hope to see. We will keep talking so long as we are able.
And now, Frico attempts to talk about the news without freaking out.
That's the plan, ladies and gentlemen. Turn that 3 shows since last freak out to 4 shows. That's what we have today. And before I begin the show, I want to take a brief moment to talk about, I think I've talked about this on the show before, I'm not sure, but if I have, I'm going to repeat myself just because I think it's worth repeating. And that is, I do an exercise. I don't do it every morning. I don't need it every morning, but some days I need it. In which, what I do is I speak out. My family, I let them know in advance, and I speak the most horrible thoughts that I could possibly think of that I want to say because of anger, fear, whatever things. Basically what I do is I face the worst parts of me. And I do so because I believe that we live in a time when there are a whole bunch of folks that have a high vested interest in you becoming a horrible hater of everyone around you, of you becoming a dangerous person. They want more dangerous people, and the they is their multiple theys. There are individuals who find it totally in their best interest for more and more Americans to lash out, to be violent, to be hateful, to confirm all of their boogeyman fears that they've been pumping into others. So what I do when I get a bit of a build-up where you just see so many things around you, you just, it doesn't matter, whatever. If you're a progressive, you have plenty of reasons to be pissed right now. If you're a conservative, total lots of reasons to be pissed. Everybody has a lot of reasons to be pissed because there's a lot of people working for a lot of different interests that have decided to be fundamentally un-American in their approach, that have decided to openly call for the abolition of the Bill of Rights. The people, the poors that join them are not understanding that you are literally assaulting the one advantage that we poors still have over the Citadelians. It's the Bill of Rights. And you want to jettison it because reasons, whether it's to stop the SJW extremists or to enable them. Either way, whether it's for whatever your particular extremist brand is, everybody's signing up for their particular war parties. It seems I'm not signing up for any of them. I don't want to. So what I do is, as I build up I'm a survivalist type person, and I don't mean survivalist in the prepper sense. I'm a bit of that, but kind of minor in that scale. But in a kind of clinical sense, survivalists are people who they want to control things around them so that they can guarantee that they're not going to die. And they have an exaggerated sense of threat. And so they tend to want to shut things down around them. They are given to authoritarian behavior, let's just say. So I'm given to authoritarian behavior because I have this. I think it's a genetic DNA. I don't know. Well, maybe not. It's biological at the very least, I think. I think I was born with this thing, and I've spent much of my life trying to overcome this. Because ideationally, I'm the very opposite of this biological impulse. So what I do is I go through a process where I say the worst of the worst things, and I imagine the worst of the worst case scenarios. And what happens for me is it so openly and blatantly violates so many parts of who I am that when I hear it in my head, it doesn't sound nearly as bad as when I speak it out loud. And when I speak it out loud, it sounds retarded. And it's a great way to kind of protect yourself, if you will, from your own mechanisms of protecting yourself. And when worse comes to worse, when you feel like it's you or them, you or me, or whatever the case might be, you will find a reason to put the them that you perceive as threatening you into some sort of subhumanizing category. It's what we're all doing right now. And I would highly recommend, I don't know necessarily that I would recommend this technique for anyone that does not have a history of nonviolence. If you have a history of violence, don't do this. You're probably going to act on it. But if you have a history of nonviolence, such as I have, I think most of us have, this is a good exercise. What you do is you speak some of the weirdest impulses, angriest impulses. I mean, my targets are almost always, I got to tell you, the villain in my head is almost always the white SJW authoritarian. Those are the worst of the worst in my head. Those are the people that I speak the worst things about. Because without them, this doesn't happen. So what's going on right now doesn't happen without the white SJW authoritarians. So I don't want to hate them. I don't want to seek bad things happening to them because it fundamentally violates so many parts of who I am, but not all parts of who I am. And this is true of all of us. Every single one of us, but we don't want to face that reality. We don't want to face the fact that parts of us, all of us, and anyone that fits within the relatively quote-unquote normal aggregate of human biological expression, all of us have capacities to think horrible things about people that we perceive as threatening us, whether they're actually threatening us or not. And when we flee from that truth, it can build easily deeper and deeper within you. And what you'll end up doing is you'll find some sort of ideational construct for you to entertain that horrible beast within. And you'll never have to face the fact that you are fundamentally denying most other parts of yourself. You're fundamentally working against yourself by entertaining the beast within. This is my supposition. So I think it's an excellent exercise, and it's one that I have used, I'd say, a lot more in the last few days. But I can go sometimes months on end and never really feel the need to do this exercise. But wherever I feel like I'm starting to get, especially if I feel like I'm getting jaded towards something or someone, then what I'll do is I will speak out the worst, whatever worst impulses I have, I speak them out loud. And when I speak them out loud, hardly ever does it make sense logically within my frameworks of preference. And it's a great way to keep yourself from giving in to what most people around you want to give into. Everybody wants war and violence. And I will tell you, if you are one of the poors, no matter your political persuasion, if you give in to violence, you're basically working against all of us at this point. This is my supposition. I'm not saying I'm absolutely certain of this, but this is what I believe. So there you go. I just wanted to say a couple brief notes there. Hopefully I didn't go too long here. About 13 minutes. Sorry, I thought I was going to take about 15 minutes, so there you go. And with that, why don't we actually, this is not the official beginning of the show. This isn't the real beginning. Now we're going to get ready for the actual beginning of the show. Yeah. You know what? Hold on one second. I think I'm going to make a unilateral decision right here. Where is the website? I need to expose the website. Let's get that website in here. All right. Let's bring the website up. All righty then. There we go. Let's move you, say, here. Let's move you down. How about right there? How about we do that? Yeah, we'll do that. I think this is how we will begin the shows from now on. All right. Where are we at? There we go. All right, here we go. Here we go. All right, now let's get ready to begin the show. Officially begin the show. No, I'm not ready. Sorry. I gotta have you. There we go. All righty. In 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Frico Talks the News with Frico. I am Frico of Frico.com. Today's Frico Talks the News, which is our news art of the day, is sex in the times of Coronavilles. Hence the image in the background. See, that's the image for the show. Sex in the time of Coronavilles. That's the underlying theme of the show, and well, in a somewhat indirected way. But, well, the first story is going to be the Union foils the blue line. Light echoes could power your world. The morality of likes and subscribes. And finally, Millipede sex in the time of lasers. There's a twist. That's going to be our news poem. Some of the things that we're going to talk about today: police unions, police reform, whispering gallery, Max Planck Institute, social media morality, social media rewiring, millipede sex, pseudo-polydesmus, micro-CT images, and Xavier Zenli. These are just some of the things we're going to be talking about today. Let's get to the first segment here. And we're going to start recording in 3, 2, 1. This is the talk headlines for Frico Talks the News on Friday, June 12th, 2020. My name is Frico with Frico.com. Our top headline today: the Union foils the blue line. Police unions, police reform, thin blue line, George Floyd, Kim Gardner. So this is an excerpt from how police unions became such powerful opponents to police reform. From the New York Times, which New York Times is pretty much just a blog at this point, just another trash blog. One of many, left, right, and everywhere else. While rates of union memberships have dropped by half nationally since the early 1980s to 10%, higher membership rates among police unions give them resources they can spend on campaigns and litigation to block reform. A single New York City police union has spent more than $1 million on state and local races since 2014. You know, police unions are one of the situations where we have the government, the armed part of the government, lobbying the government for laws that favor the armed part of the government. Right in and of itself, there seems to be some conflict of interest there. The government is essentially, and it's the armed part of the government. Remember that. These are the ones with the bombs and the guns. These are the ones that can destroy things, that can send people out, that can legally murder people because they refuse to be detained. Just for that alone, they can legally murder you for refusing to be detained by them. That's the power that these human beings have. Remember that. That's what we're talking about. And these police unions have the power, thanks to all the money that the police officers send them, tax dollar money that we pay them to allegedly protect us. It's yet 80+% of their job is revenue generating. They're writing tickets and doing sheriff sales. That's mostly what they do. They hardly ever protect and serve. That's not on there. As a matter of fact, legally, they don't even have to do that. The Supreme Court said that they don't have to legally protect and serve you. There's no legal obligation. So why do we even have the police? We have the police to protect banks and citadelian wealth and their fiefdoms, their little vassal fiefdoms, little local governments. That's what they're there for. And these police unions, though, they haven't done the police themselves any real favor. They've made it easier for police to murder human beings unjustly and get away with it. But they have done nothing to actually put police in positions where they don't have to even come close to the situation in which they find themselves murdering people for no legitimate constitutional reason, if we are a land of law at all, or due process. You cannot be a land of due process and adopt SJW authoritarianism, by the way. Just throwing that in there. I just need to throw that in there because it does seem everybody's looking for that conformity to the SJW authoritarian model now, and you cannot coexist with that if you're a Bill of Rights person. You have to separate from these people at this point. If you're an SJW authoritarian, you have no business being friends with a Bill of Rights person and vice versa. You cannot coexist. You're going to have to repent of your ways is what's going to have to happen. I'm sorry about that. This is what's been on my mind today predominantly, but it ties to this story, to the police union story, because the police unions are now finding themselves the victims of SJW authoritarianism. And nobody really cares. You know, they didn't come for you first. That's the thing. And if they had come for you first, you might have had more allies. But they came for a whole bunch of people before they came for you. And the thing is, you were the reason that they kept coming for other people. Because you failed us. These police unions failed us. The politicians pass more laws, more regulations. And your police unions, you know what they say to the politicians? Yes, we're going to keep sending our people out with guns and putting them in more and more situations in which they could potentially be killed or have to kill their neighbors. Not a peep. The police unions have only worked to enable cops to murder human beings. They have done nothing to check the power of the politicians. They have refused to comply with the laws of the land. They comply with the laws of human beings, not the laws of the land. They comply with the laws of politicians. They're edicts. These are edicts. All of these laws that are unconstitutional, they're edicts. They're not laws. And you follow edicts. And every time they add more edicts to your list, you say, yes, please. You love it. You go out and you buy another APC because you know you're going to have to murder people. Because, you know, more laws, more murder. That's the way it works. That's always the way it works throughout human history. More laws, more murder. It's as simple as that. And your police unions, they failed you in 2 counts, police officers. 1, they made it much easier for you to really reveal what violent thugs you really are. What you've enabled the police institutions in America to become. I call it the Fallujahing of America. We have Fallujah cops now. We don't have cops. We don't have peace officers. We have Fallujah cops looking at us like we're Al-Qaeda insurgents just waiting to kill them. And it's not far from the truth anymore. I mean, I'm not advocating for anyone killing anyone. I'm a nonviolent person other than at direct self-defense. But whatever my opinion is, it doesn't matter. The rest of America, nobody likes you anymore. Even conservatives are done with you. What happened was they kept adding laws and adding regulations and sending you out for more and more things. They would send you out for hate crimes and you'd go enforce that. Hate speech laws, you'd go enforce that. You wouldn't protect businesses when they were under assault by SJW authoritarian mobs. You didn't go and arrest anybody that led the mobs that murdered human beings using Twitter hashtags. You didn't do anything. You call the cops and the cops have nothing for you. They have no protections. All they have is revenue collections. If you're caught speeding, they get that cha-ching. They're not saving lives by stopping speeders. They're saving budgets. That's all they do. They're just budget savers for little vassals of Citadelians. Your local government is nothing but a vassal of the Citadelian. That's all they are. They have very little actual power to make any real decisions without Citadelian approval. We have very little local sovereignty and control anymore in America. It's mostly gone. So, the police officer charged with murder in the killing of George Floyd is expected to make a first appearance in court Monday. In St. Louis, when Kim Gardner was elected the top prosecutor 4 years ago, she set out to rein in the city's high rate of police violence, but after she proposed a unit within the prosecutor's office that would independently investigate misconduct, she ran into the powerful local police union. The union pressured lawmakers to set aside the proposal, which many supported, but then never brought to a vote. You know, there's something else about that that's missing. It's not just the police unions don't have power just because of the police unions. They have power because of the conservatives. Because the conservatives treat the police like they're gods. Unquestionable gods. They worship that blue line. When you see these idiots with Moulin Labe and Thin Blue Line right together, it's the cops that did not refuse to enforce the red flag laws. They went out and enforced them. These are the police. This is the reality. Your police departments are filled with thugs, murderers and rapists and thieves. They're 25% of the police force, and they're 90+% of the leadership. It's a fundamentally corrupt organization across America. And you showed who you really were, police. You showed conservatives finally, because they have been supporting you, believing that when push comes to shove, when the politicians violated the Constitution in a really obvious way, that you would not do it. But then the lockdowns came. The insane emergency declarations from the twits of our country. The leaders. You have to be a psychopathic, murdering, pedophilic twit to have any chance to rise in America today. You have to have a pedophilic attitude to be anyone in power today. If you see someone in power, you can almost be guaranteed that they're advocates of very perverted beliefs. They're horrible, horrible, bloodthirsty killers. And you police, you were supposed to be our last line of defense. You were supposed to honor the Constitution, serve the Constitution, not men, not women, not theys. But when the men and the women and the theys stood up and said, violate, because reasons, you said, yes, sir, master. Yes, master, you house slaves that went out into the field to beat the field slaves down. That's what you showed yourselves. You showed yourselves to have no interest in defending who you are, who we are. We are the poors. That transcends race and gender and everything else. It is fundamentally the class that the Citadelians seek to control, and you are being used by them to control yourself, your meat machines. Dumb-brained meat machines with a little bit of extra $30,000 a year plus maybe a little benefits. That's what you sold out for. You sold out for a semi-detached home and a wife that's probably cheating on you. That's what you did. So now even the conservatives have abandoned you. And it's in large part, it's thanks to your own police unions. Because the police unions never stood up and said no. It would be so easy if the police unions came out and gave you cover and said, listen, we, the police union, will not justify our police officers going out and following these orders because they're blatantly and overtly unconstitutional. We are American citizens first and cops second. But you said, no, we are cops first and American citizens, we don't even care. We don't care. As long as we can keep our semi-detached homes and our cheating wives, that's all we care about. And if you're a cop and you're listening to this, resign immediately. You have no business being a part of any American cop institution today. The whole thing needs redone. From the bottom and the top up. From the bottom up and the top down. All of it needs to be gone. I'm not saying right now you abolish police forces in America. That would be stupid. That would fall right into the hands of these bloodthirsty citadelians using the SJW authoritarian model to try to take complete control over our thoughts, our minds, and our lives. But it needs to be pretty quickly. In my area, right here, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, oh, you bet I'm going to start working for this. I'm going to work for Bethlehem, PA to end our police department and replace it with a citizens police department that is patrolled by individuals that are not enforcing your unconstitutional laws, that are not going out there looking for revenue. Their primary job is to actually keep the peace. They're looking for people that are doing violent things right here and right now, not trying to fleece their neighbors and put people in awkward positions of deciding whether they should try to shoot this cop or not, because they figure they got nothing left nothing left for anyway at this point. Like, that's that's the reality, folks. That's what's happened. Police officers, I don't wish any of you ill. I want all of you to have happy, healthy lives. But I don't want you to be police officers anymore. And I don't want Americans to just overnight support overthrowing police departments, because what you'll end up with is SJW authoritarian police that'll be far worse even than these guys. Far worse. You will have morality police going around looking through your social media, not to see if you said something offensive, but to see if you said enough things that show that you're one of us. Are you really? I don't know. I look at this. I see racist here. I see racist here. That's what's coming. That's what's already here for some people already experiencing this right here and right now. It's here. And the police, you did this to us. It's your fault. It's primarily your fault. You're the ones that stood down when you should have stood up, and you stood up when you should have stood down. You did the exact opposite of everything that you promised us that you would do. You assured us when things get crazy, we're with the people. And you decided, nope. And now everybody hates you. The very people that you protected and enabled, now they're murdering you. And nobody feels sorry for you. Other than individuals, and any individual, you always feel sorry for the individual. But in the aggregate, in the abstract, nobody feels sorry for you. Because you did this to yourselves. Your police unions did this to you. That's what happened. That's why nobody likes you anymore. That's why you're worse. Norm Macdonald had a joke. He says, the number one worst job in the world has been, the worst job in America has been supplanted. Last year it was crack whore. This year it's assisted crack whore. That was the joke. I remember, I think I saw both live ones when he did it the first year and then the second year. And now he would come on if he was still doing Saturday Night Live updates, SNL updates. But nobody should be on that show. That's a god-awful show. Now he would be on and he would say, the worst job, crack whore, has been supplanted by cop. It's the worst job you can have in America today is cop. And you did this. You did this because you didn't stand with us. You stood with them. And now that they're murdering you, nobody's going to stand for you. I stand for not dismantling police forces, but not because you don't deserve it, just because it's in my best interest. If it wasn't in my best interest, I would not give a crap. Dismantle them. It's in most of our best interest that you not be dismantled, that we have a more cohesive way of dismantling the system, giving you folks some time, some training, whatever you need to transition to your new lives, because none of you can be cops anymore. That's for sure. None of you. None of you have earned that right. You should hang your badges up now in shame for what you've done to this country. You let us all down. You stood when you should have sat, and you sat when you should have stood. Shame on you. Just shame on you. Whew. I knew this story was going to be a hard story to get through. And I want to say at the very end of this, just a little caveat there. I have my real feelings about the police institution and as a whole. And I don't want anyone to leave this feeling in any way that they should be looking at cops as some subhuman individual that they have a right to hurt or destroy, because they don't. Almost everyone around us that I see in their different factions, I could easily be any one of them. I could easily be a cop. I could easily have gone down that road and I would be there. I could easily be a black supremacist if I was black and I was in the right circumstance, or a white supremacist for that matter if I was in different circumstances. Circumstances largely have put me in a position of unaligned with any of you. I'm fundamentally consensually driven, and I don't really believe it has anything to do with other than circumstances are such that I've come to recognize the useful utility of consensual living. And I believe that if most of you really let go of your egos, of your desires to be perceived as morally better than your neighbors, as smarter, as faster, as stronger, whatever, all the ways that you want to just feel like no, you're a good person. You're not. You're a crappy, evil person. And you're also a good person. And every single one of us are. And unless and until you come to embrace that and know that, you're going to be part of this whole, the circle is getting tighter and tighter, the cycle of violence that's going on right now. And it's coming to a crescendo. We ain't got more than 8 months left before there's going to be an ultimate denouement between the fundamental factions that exist in America. And I believe that there are, well, doesn't matter. If you stop trying to win the morality contest, we could figure a lot of things out, including how we can better police, how we can have peace officers instead of revenue chasers, and we can find ways to find human beings that aren't like any of these cops. We don't want any of these people to ever be cops again. None of you. None of you. I don't care if you're the best, greatest, noblest cop in the world. Nope. You're part of this system. You're over. You're all over. Not immediately. Like maybe a 2-3 year process as we transition you out and transition people in who are a lot smarter than most of you. Human beings that have IQs that enable them to understand what the Bill of Rights are and why it's in their best interest to live by them and limit their interaction with human beings by those standards. Because most of you don't even have the IQ to understand that. And you don't care to. You just don't. You're just trying to survive. You're just a poor person like me just trying to make it in the world. That's all. Except in order for you to make it in the world, people gotta die. That's the problem. That's the problem. We don't want to subhumanize or demonize anyone, especially right now police. Because they want that. They want you to turn violent. They want you to hate and destroy. And if you do that, we're all lost. So I pray for the police. I pray for your safety. I pray that we find a happy, healthy transition for all of you into a new life where we all win. You don't have to keep doing this job anymore. I will find work for you that allows you to live the standard of living that you have now. I'm not trying to diminish your life or destroy you. I'm just trying to destroy your ability to keep destroying us. That's it. I'll end it there. Yeah, it was a tough story to do. I have a lot of hard things I want to say, and I just don't want to be part of advancing horror and hate and demonization in the world. But I also don't want to not speak, even if it means ultimately it might get me killed, because it might. I always wondered when when I heard all the Nazi stories, how could people just go along with this evil horror? And I'm watching it. And it's very unpopular to say, and it could get you killed. But this whole BLM thing it's insidious. It's fascism. It's moral supremacist fascism. It's un-American. It's fundamentally violations of bills of rights. It's creating sin finders, demanding that you be a sin finder. And your evidence of being a sin finder is that you found sin. And the evidence that you found sin is that you have a scalp. Somebody lost their job because of you. That's what they need to see from you. And if they don't see that, it doesn't matter what you say. You're going to end up losing your job too. You people are just going with it. And where are the voices to stand up defiantly? Where are the leaders? They don't exist. Our corporations are all walking lockstep with this new, I call it blackface Nazism. It's a bunch of white people that have thrown black people in front of them as their blackface, in which they're actually unknowingly advancing white supremacism and pissing everybody off in the process. So they'll be the scorn. They want you, ultimately, these white billionaires. When all the money is behind you, Black America, don't you think you're being duped? You're being played. This is crypto, or I call it dialectical white supremacism. The whole manner in which this thing has taken form, how these labels have taken on lives of their own. Labels like white privilege. And they're literally white people. Mostly white people are saying, if you don't acknowledge your white privilege, then you're problematic. Do they know that 5-year-olds are listening to them? 8-year-olds are listening to them? White children? I would really love it if you could tell me why white children deserve to hear this message of hate against their own skin color. Because that's what that is. And I will say it. And if we end up vanquishing the SJW authoritarians, the black-faced Nazis, and we don't give over to the other Nazis, because they're not the only Nazis in town. You know the little boogeymen that they're telling you about, the alt-right and the white Nazis, the white supremacists? No, those folks are real. They're a very real threat too. They're just waiting in the wings for an opportunity. What they are banking on. And believe you me, they're helping these SJW authoritarians. The reason they're helping them is, what they're banking on is, there's a lot less SJWs than SJW authoritarians than they imagine. They're grossly exaggerated in their sense of self. And that when the backlash comes and the chaos comes, they'll be able to step into the void. So we have, I have long been, how do you fight one side when if you were to successfully destroy it, the other side, which is just as evil, subjectively speaking from my framework of preference of consensuality, just as evil as the other side. So I don't have an answer to that. In the here and now, I do have mid and long-term answers, and it's 3D printers and 3D printed guns and micro factories and microgrids and stuff like that. But short-term, I don't have an answer. How is it that we combat this SJW authoritarianism? I do not want, you want to show more people that are gay and transgendered in positive ways, and even not necessarily positive, just in normal, hey, this normal kind of situations. I don't want to start attacking that because SJW authoritarians are for it. I'm not going to go against the parts of SJW even SJW. I don't disagree with SJW authoritarians on everything, and just I refuse to surrender my brain to the authoritarian right as much as I refuse to surrender it to the authoritarian left. So I don't want to go back in time. I don't want gay people back in closets. I want to figure out what transgender is in sports. Let's figure this out. Let's actually figure out what's what, and stop listening to the extremists on all sides of this issue. I don't want any of this stuff to end. I want America to consciously work on building an image that is multifaceted, that is black, white, Mexican, all kinds of faces. And when you think America, you think the world. I want this. I want all of this. I believe in diversity as a practical, powerful nation-state tool. Significant advantage for an American state to be diverse. Like, we want that. We need that. I'm not giving up any of that just because SJW authoritarians are co-opting these legitimate issues and using them to convince people that the only way that we can stop racism is by demonizing white people and ending our bills of rights, basically taking the one power that the poors have to prevent the citadelians from completely owning their minds, thoughts, and actions. And it is the Bill of Rights. It's all we have left at this point. And you want to give that up to stop racism. And that's a false dichotomy. It's not a choice between SJW authoritarianism and ending racism. SJW authoritarianism is not going to end racism. It's going to make it much worse. And I plead with my American brothers and sisters of all races and whatevers. Don't allow yourselves to hate the boogeymen that the authoritarians are using, the shields, the blackface shields. You're going to want to hate black people and gay people. You're going to want to hate universal health care. You're going to want to hate all the Democrat policies in general and associate all of that with blackface Nazism. The only part that's blackface Nazism really is the citadelian white billionaires. Those are the only blackface Nazis. That's what they are. Those are the only ones. Everyone else, almost all of us, we're mostly, well, we all have some degree of agency, so we all have some responsibility, but we're mostly victims. We're mostly victims of circumstances because we have to live. We have to provide on a daily basis. And the people that have the luxury to know, they have decided to simply openly lie to us for purposes of manipulating us to fear and hate and shame and anger and supremacism, all just to keep their families making billions of dollars every year. That's where we live. That's America today. The citadelians are the only ones that deserve our ire. Not black America, not gay America, not progressive America, not Antifa America, not conservative America, not right-wing America. The citadelian America. These are the ones that fundamentally violated their standing, their positions in this world. They had advantage and power, and they still have it. And they're using it to protect their coffers, to protect their power, to prevent us, the poors, from living lives of our own choosing. All right, let's try and get back to the show. This is going to be a long show, probably, even though the segments might not be. Well, that first one was long. Now we get to the dialectical in 3, 2, 1. This is the dialectical for Frico Talks the News on Friday, June 12th, 2020. My name is Frico with Frico.com. And the title of this dialectical is The Morality of Likes and Subscribes. Social media morality rewiring, Gord Hotchkiss. The moral certaintarian supremacism that is taking an ever-strangling hold on the reality of Coronavilles this June of 2020 can be laid at the feet, in large part, to something that is referred to as the watching eye, being in the perceived constant public square where everyone is performer, a commentator, a political activist, a leader, compels us to constantly demonstrate our rightness before others and constantly look for reassurance from our followers and subs and any innocent bystanders about the absolute rightness of our very existence. We perform and we develop methodologies for cutting off dissent, including any manner of subhumanization and demonization as a means to defend yourself from claims that might shake your rightness in the public eye. We battle demons every day. We become heroes, and our neighbors increasingly fall into categories of villain, categories we must support if we are to hold favor in the public eye. We become easily manipulated towards extreme positions that make it easier for us to avoid messy facts that might deny our certain rightness in the public eye. That is the backdrop. That is 10 years now, at least 10 years now, of pretty intense universal human conditioning through the use of social media. This is our backdrop. These are the human beings that we are right now. What a surprise that SJW authoritarianism has risen during a time such as this. And here's an excerpt from Media Post, written by Gord Hotchkiss. Now, I'm going to try to resist commenting until I get to the end, because I have written stuff after this. So I'm just going to read this. Yeah, let's see how well I do. What happens when our morality becomes our personal brand, part of who we believe we are? When that happens, our sense of morality migrates from the evolutionary core of our limbic brain to our cortex, the home of our personal brand, and our morals morph into a sort of tribal identity badge. In this case, social media can short-circuit the evolutionary mechanisms of morality. Wow. Educated man wrote that sentence. Educated man wrote that sentence. I bet you he prides himself in being a logical person, too. For example, there has been a proven correlation. Proven! Let's see this proven correlation. The watching eye effects in the dictator game. It's not how much you give, it's being seen to give something. In a classic study, Haley and Fessler showed that displaying subtle eye-like stimuli caused participants to behave more generously in the dictator game. Since their paper was published, there have been both successful replications and no results reported in the literature. However, it is important to clarify that two logically separable effects were found in the original experiment. Watching eyes made the mean donation higher and also increased the probability of donating something rather than nothing. Here we report a replication study with 118 participants in which we found that watching eyes significantly increased the probability of donating something but did not increase the mean donation. Results did not depend on the sex of the participants or the sex of the eyes. We also the sex of the eyes. Okay, I don't get that. Okay. We also present a meta-analysis of the 7 studies of watching. I'm probably missing some dumb obvious thing here. I don't know. We also present a meta-analysis of the 7 studies of watching eye effects in the dictator game published to date. Combined, these studies total 887 participants. and showed that although watching eyes do not reliably increase mean donations, they do reliably increase the probability of donating. Now, we can conclude that watching eye effect in the dictator game is robust, but its interpretation may require refinement. Now, let's go back to what they say. Now, remember, they linked this. In this case, social media can short-circuit the evolutionary. A proven correlation between pro-sociality and the concept of watching eye. We are more likely to be good people when we have an audience. There's that good people. But social media twists the concept of audience and can nudge our behavior from the pro-social to the more insular and individualistic end of the spectrum. Okay. The successfulness of social conformity and the wisdom of crowds. Successfulness is... This is Chairman Z writing this. This individual and Chairman Z should party because they think exactly alike. Depends on a certain heterogeneity in the ideological makeup of the crowd. Oh, so in other words, they have to be the right kind of people, I guess. The filter bubble of social media strips this from our perceived audience, as I have written. It reinforces, I'm not going to go there. It reinforces our moral beliefs by surrounding us with an audience that also shares our beliefs. Reinforces our moral beliefs. And if those audiences are not sharing the moral beliefs of the social conformity crowd, then that's dangerous. The confidence that comes from this trends to push us away from the middle ground of conformed morality towards outlier territory. And we don't want that. We don't want outliers. Perhaps this is why we are seeing the polarization of morality all too evident today. The exact opposite of what everything he said is true. I'll just say that. Although now I'm going to continue. I'm going to start with this quote right here. Social media can short-circuit the evolutionary mechanisms of morality. I guess you think that a science lab can tell you what value is. Value is subjective. Always subjective unless you introduce preference. As soon as you introduce preference, you can start to talk about value objectively, but only within the framework of that preference. See, that's what you don't understand here, little man. Whatever your name is here. Gorge Hotchkiss. You actually wrote a sentence in which you are claiming that there is an evolutionary mechanism of morality. No one can even objectively define morality. No one. I've never found any viable case for objective moral standards. Universal objective moral standards. They don't exist. But it is the tool of tools that tyrants, that authoritarians, that police state controllers use to keep their dumb crowds in line. Moralities, angels and demons. This is what you're advocating for. What you say social media is doing is not what it's doing. Social media is not. It's creating a homogenized, authoritarian, extremely anti-human, from the perspective of the 90% of us who will be ultimately diminished because of this type of power that we would give to citadelians. The power to police thought. I mean, that's what SJW authoritarianism does. It gives citadelians the power to police thought. Bottom line, that's the bottom line. And that comes about largely because of social media. Because social media does the very thing that you're saying is good, is not good. We don't want a watching eye. We don't want to drive people towards ever increasing pursuits of moral purity and certainty in that morality, especially when we compare our moral constructs with others' moral constructs. We want to avoid the watching eye. And the social media is what creates the watching eye, amplifies it so that we all now have to perform. Yes, for our personal brand, but our personal brand isn't morphed into a tribal identity. Our personal brand ultimately is becoming morphed to your particular twisted, black-faced SJW Nazi authoritarian moral supremacism. And I'm almost 99% certain that Gorin, the way he writes and how he expresses his ideas, the way that he focuses so much on the terror of divergent thought, that is authoritarian police statism in its finest. That is something that Pol Pot would have written. Certainly Hitler would agree with you. Hitler wouldn't agree with me. He'd agree with you much more. He would much more rather have a government that followed these standards than Bill of Rights standards. And you're not for Bill of Rights standards, because Bill of Rights standards allow for this diversity. And if all human beings on this in this land, if we all agreed to these Bill of Rights standards, the amount of diverse expressions of ideational thought we could hold would be tremendous. Tremendously more than you're seeking after this elusive universal moral construct that we should all bow down to and assure that we all follow. To assure that we're all under this watching eye. I reject your watching eye. I reject your claims of authority over my mind. I reject your authority completely. I reject your moral authority. I reject the moral authority of all of you folks out there right now declaring that if you don't stand for BLM, I can't be with you. Well, guess what? I can't be with you if you stand with BLM. Not really. Not in a trusting way. Not until you repent of your sins, so to speak. You want to end racism, it's not going to be with the BLM. The BLM will perpetuate it, and it will make black people the villains of a movement that is largely a white billionaire movement. The white billionaires, they ultimately want BLM to fail. They want BLM to be the face that catches the flack. They want poor whites to turn on poor blacks instead of poor whites and poor blacks discovering. Listen, if you're in the BLMers, you need the Bill of Rights. Unless you're wealthy, you need the Bill of Rights. You need the Bill of Rights, my friends. That's all you need. That, and, well, you need to end the gun laws. You need to end the drug laws. You need to end the destroy families through welfare laws. You can keep the welfare, just destroy the parts of welfare that destroy families. Let married families get welfare, for instance. I mean, these are just a few of the easiest things. And then flood the zone with capital that individuals, give it to the individuals that don't give it to any political activists. Give it to the doers. Give it to the people that are doing business right now, the small business people, not the corporatist people. Give it to them and let them build lands and worlds of their choosing. That's what you should do. You don't need BLM. You don't need to police white people. You just need to have the power to build right where you are what you want to build. You don't need to police the morality of white people. Just walk away from that, Black America. We're not your problem. Poor whites aren't your enemy. Your enemy is the very citadelians that are funding your movements, that are taking your faces and putting them in front and making you the demons of the authoritarianism that they're forcing on others. It's not good. This is absolutely dialectical white supremacism, and you're falling for it. You're all falling for it. The convictions of those who held disparate, morally certain assumptions throughout the ages, and they have been widely varied in a whole range of assumptions and, in some instances, brutally forced on those who disagreed with these assumptions, have all been almost all universally held with the same degree of certainty. A certainty that compelled them to risk death and murder to assure their assumed moral certainties were successful in being lived in the lives of everyone, whether they agreed with these assumptions or not. And this writer seems to have come to the point that demonstrates not that he is freeing himself from the pattern of the social media watching eye, but that he has become yet another casualty of the need to perform in the certain right sphere, where you are perceived as being the good, the absolute good, fighting the absolute evil. This up here, this that he wrote here, this is like when the Christian ministers came together and wrote apologetics letters in defense of Hitler. That's what this is. This is a man appealing to your sense of morality as a defense of blackface Nazi SJW authoritarianism. That's what this man is. And most likely a white man. By far and away. By far and away. If you want to talk to an SJW and have a conversation, talk to a black SJW, not a white one. Because white SJWs, my suspicion, 90+% of them, white supremacists. Dialectical white supremacists that fundamentally, whether they know it at an aware level or at a heuristic institutional level, they understand the white supremacist racist construct of POC versus whiteness. People of color versus whiteness. The whole world is divided into white people and everyone else. You don't think that's subhumanizing and demonizing right from the start? Not of white people, of you. BLM. The black people supporting BLM, you're literally supporting a subhumanization of yourselves right now. You should never ever use that phrase, white privilege. What it means is white power. Because you need your allies to protect you. You need white power to protect you from white power. You're dupes. And you white conservatives, black America is not your evil. Black America is not at fault. Because if you grew up in the circumstances that in the aggregate of what black Americans experience, you would very much easily be a BLMer yourself. And I don't blame black America. They've been truly murdered, raped, and pillaged and plundered. Their children have been violated. They have been treated like subhumans since this country came into existence. They have every right to hate. They have every right to hate white people. I don't blame them. I'm just trying to tell them that if they allow themselves to give in to this hate, that all of us die. You die too. We all die. The only people that win are the white billionaire citadelians that are using your faces to advance their white supremacism. Dialectical white supremacism. Morality is a construct, or should I say moralities are constructs. And I have little doubt the writer of this interesting article, this basic acquiescence to authoritarianism, has in his mind a very specific set of moral assumptions that he bases his truth upon. The bedrock of his faith in what is, so to speak. That's where his foundation of truth is morality. Never trust anyone whose foundation of truth is morality, because they're a liar and they're probably willing to murder their neighbors. You just got to find out which neighbors. This position is similar to most all of us, who also have specific sets of moral assumptions that we base our truth upon, that we make the bedrock of our faith in what is, so to speak. The convictions of those who held disparate, morally certain assumptions throughout the ages, and they've been widely varied in a whole range of assumptions, and in some instances, brutally forced on those who disagreed with these assumptions, have all been almost all universally held. And I wanted to stress the all. With the same degree of certainty. a certainty that compelled them to risk death and murder to assure their assumed moral certainties were successful at being lived in the lives of everyone, whether they agreed with these assumptions or not. Whether you're talking about Oliver Cromwell's Puritans or Pol Pot's Mad Machine, whatever it is you're talking about, killers, murderers, rapists, pillagers, plunderers, pedophiles, the worst of humanity is attracted to these types of ideologies. And by that, I don't mean the ranks and files. I mean the leaders. The leaders are the ones that are willing to kill. And that's who you're led by. You're led by murderers and rapists and pedophiles. That's the way it is for any authoritarian structures. The worst of the worst. The ones who can kill the best are the ones that rise to power. And this writer seems to have come to the point that demonstrates that he is freeing himself from the pattern of the social media watching eye. No, he's not. He's the problem. He is the absolute problem. The very thing that he wants to end. Diverse moral constructs within the land, which is fundamentally anti-American. The only moral construct that should stand universally is the Bill of Rights. That is it. Nothing else. No universal applications in any kind of state or corporate setting outside of the Bill of Rights. That's the American standard that we should enforce. That's it. Nothing else. Because we live in a land of multiple moral constructs. And the only way that we can live as a people, as a diverse people, which would be our strength, is if we can have our unity. We must have unity in diversity. Diversity gives us tremendous amounts of flexibility and diverse pools of talent to draw from. It's an incredible advantage over the rest of the world. It's incredibly important for America to be diverse. But we cannot be diverse if our ideological construct is white people are bad. And we must check the moral evil of white people. It can't be that. It has to be the Bill of Rights. That means you have to put up with racists. You don't have to put up with racists with power, but you do have to put up with racists. Racists that can hurt you, you don't have to put up with them because they're violating your Bills of Rights. Racists with thoughts, leave them alone. Leave them alone. Leave bad thoughts alone. We don't live in that land. This is not our American way. And as more and more Americans on all sides of the spectrums, on all sides of the sexual, all of the spectrums, realize this, I'm hoping that a Bill of Rights people, a Boer people, emerges that can finally, in a balanced way, end the tyrannical threats that are coming from both the right and the left. Because if you finish off the SJW authoritarians without addressing the actual white Nazis, then we will be a white Nazi nation. We'll either be a black shield Nazi nation or a white Nazi nation. I don't think we have to be either. I think that we can be an American nation for the first time ever. The first time ever, let's be a Bill of Rights land. You know, I'm not even going to take a break. I'm just going to keep going because the shows are already running late. And, yeah, I tell you, I don't feel angry today. I feel just depressed, crestfallen. We are watching our friends, our neighbors, our relatives all turning into pod people. Just unthinking, horrible police state enabling meat machines. It's chilling to see, and I don't know how much time I have left. Eventually one of my videos will probably catch somebody's attention, and that'll be the end of me and my family. Because I've already said too many things that could get you killed today in America. And I just can't be silent, even if I die, metaphorically or whether I die just career-wise or literally, I don't know. I have to talk. I have to speak. Not out of any moral compulsion, personal, preferential. I can't not, for my own sense of apex existentiality, I can absolutely not surrender my mind. I will not surrender my mind. I will not surrender my mind. Let me tell you, my moral constructs don't all align with yours, and yours don't with mine. And I will never submit to a universal declaration of morality by the state or by the corporation that I must adhere to. I would rather die. And I mean that. And I never knew I meant that until now, until Coronavilles. What would I do? What would you do? Well, I'm already doing it. I am defiant. I think of, what's his name? Darn it, why can't I think of his name? Dang it. Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He wrote Life Together. Great book. Really suggest you read it. He was I guess he's a Lutheran priest. And he is during the rise of Hitler. This is when Hitler won the 1933 election, and he saw what he saw, and he spoke, and he said what was to come. And on the night of the election when Hitler won, Dietrich Bonhoeffer was on the radio, and he was decrying the victory and saying, "This is the end. Hitler is evil. He is going to murder people." And he spoke out. Hitler, using the same type of logic that the SJW authoritarians are now using, shut the radio station down. And then Bonhoeffer, played a double game where he pretended to be a Nazi spy so that he could put himself in a position to eventually try to kill Hitler. And in the end, he ended up getting discovered, and a couple weeks before the war, Hitler ordered him shot and hung. Well, he was shot. Or was he hung? Maybe he was hung nude. Either way, he died nude. They stripped him down and killed him. That's how he ended. I'd rather end like that than say yes to BLM. I want you to understand that. I would rather you kill me than I submit my mind to you. I reject the BLM. I reject Black Lives Matter as an organization, as a group, as a movement, because I recognize what it is. It is dialectical white supremacism. And I reject white supremacism. I reject black supremacism. I reject all supremacisms. Maybe Bill of Rights. Let's go with that. Let's be a Bill of Rights supremacist land. That's the only one that matters. All the rest, tremendous amount of diverse expressions within that framework. So, this is my stand. This is my defiant position. Come what may. May I die resisting rather than bending my knee to any of you. You white, billionaire, millionaire, self-righteous, racist pieces of human garbage. I reject the white supremacist movement of Black Lives Matter because I'm an American and I believe in diversity and equality and justice for all, not just white people. I don't believe that white people are the most powerful people in the world, and you should work to contain such awesome power. I think that's hogwash. All we have to do is stop black leaders from imposing horrible laws on black communities that keep them as house slaves. That's basically now they're house slaves. We don't make them work, so they're house slaves. It's the black leaders that have done this to you. Black Democrats getting kickbacks to keep you right where you are. They're the ones that run the police departments that shake you down. Black leaders, black politicians with D's. Those are the ones. The Democrat Party is the party of oppression and hate. It's a Nazi party. It's a white supremacist party, and it has been since its inception. And it always will be. It's fundamentally a white supremacist movement. You black folks just don't understand how you're being used. Come, Black America, come to the Bill of Rights with me. I want and I need you as my brothers and sisters in the Bill of Rights. I need you. Without you, I will die. Without me, you will die. We need each other. If we're going to live in this land and prosper, we all need each other's under the Bill of Rights. Nothing else will do. Everything else kills us in the end. All right, let's record the talk feature. This is a talk feature for Frico Talks the News on Friday, June 12th, 2020. Talk feature for today is Light Echoes Could Power Your World. Whispering Gallery, Electron Microscope, Ofer Kaffer, Klaus Roper's Max Planck Institute. Scientists have discovered that like acoustics bouncing off of controlled surfaces that can build volumes in what is called the Whispering Gallery effect, they can do something similar using light as an electron microscope. And here's an excerpt from SciTech Daily. Whispering Gallery effect allows light to be stored and controls electron beams. Research team led by the University of Göttingen succeeds in coupling free electrons to optical resonators. Researchers from the University of Göttingen have now harnessed the effect to control the beam of electron microscope by light. The results were published in Nature. In their experiments, the team of Dr. Ofer Kafir and Professors Klaus Ropers illuminated small spheres of glass with a laser trapping light in a so-called optical whispering gallery mode. Similar to the acoustic example, the light wave travels around in these spheres almost without damping. In their electron microscope, the researchers then passed a beam of electrons near the edge of the sphere. By measuring the distribution of electron velocities, they discovered that the electrons in the light field had exchanged large amounts of energy. We investigated ways in which light can add functionality to electron microscopy, says Ropers from the Faculty of Physics, the leader of the team and director at the Max Planck Institute for Biophysical Chemistry. We can now use light to steer the beam of electrons in space and time. Enhancing the coupling of free electrons and photons may eventually lead to entirely new quantum technologies for nanoscale sensing and microscopy. We are confident that the present work is an important step in this direction. So that is incredible. So what they're able to do is to use the light, or the light wave, they use the light wave in the sphere. So the spheres amplify the light waves. And then they pass a beam of electrons near the edge of the sphere, I'm assuming after it's gone through this process of building up. And then they sensed, I guess, through their whatever tools they're using to measure whatever they're measuring, that there was energy. So they create, I don't know if they've created energy just by bouncing light into a sphere and how you would be able to capture that energy, but that's a promising development. We investigated ways in which light can add functionality to electron microscopes. So that's what they were looking at, and they ended up finding something else along the way. What they found along the way was maybe, holy moly, there's power. There's power in the echo of the light. Power in the echo of the light. And if we could harness that somehow, imagine if you could just create power with light echoes. I know they're not really echoes. I'm just being facetious because they're That's what creates the whispering gallery effect, is the echo, the sound waves. But anyway, the light echo sounds more poetic, so we're going to go with that. So that, to me, is... this, by the way, if you're watching this whole show, this has been one of the more negative shows that I've done in a while. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling kind of really depressed, I would say, on the main, that so many human beings are now conforming to such rigid authoritarianism around me. But while that is going on, this is going on. I know. I don't know for sure. I don't know, because there could be unexpected developments in technology that would fundamentally change the course. But so far, as things exist today and foreseeably, the balance of power technologically is significantly with individuals and small associations. And these folks are desperately doing everything they can to create new institutions that will keep us from getting to know this. So they need to be able to police our minds, our thoughts, and our actions every way that they possibly can. They need to be able to use moral certaintarian angels and demons assaults upon our very being in order to prevent us from doing even something like having a 3D printer. They can't have 3D printers be unregulated. They can't have... well, they're already working desperately to prevent anonymous exchange of value between individuals. These things are increasingly difficult for them to contain if they don't also have a way to be able to monitor us constantly. And they're not going to be able to monitor us constantly by just telling us that, hey, we can't know these technologies. They have to invent some form or find some vehicles that people have already created and co-opt them and pervert them to be able to police our minds as well. This is where SJW authoritarianism comes from. This is why billionaires are backing SJW authoritarianism, because this is the method that they're going to use to be able to do more than just police our direct actions against others. They need to be assured that individuals do not figure out that the technology is available today for individuals, if they so choose, to walk away and just say no. We have the power right now to just say no. All we have to do is get these tools into everyone's hands, and we can do it, and they know it. Anyway, I think that's all I'm going to say. This is going to be a rather short feature, which is fine, because the first segments were pretty freaking long. We're going to end with that. I didn't even transition any of the scenes on that one, and that's okay. Well, okay, so I got to try to get my head on here, because I really want to do this news poem and try to be a little happy, slappy, end it on a good note. I guess I'm going to have another little rant in between here. I don't know how many people are listening to this. I get 1 or 2 live listens, and my videos primarily between YouTube and BitChute, I get on average about 40 or 50 views, so about 10 to 20 on YouTube and 20 to 40-ish on BitChute. I get more traffic on BitChute. Still, just a drop in the bucket. Nobody's listening. I know I'm wasting my time, but I'm not. Because at the very least, I will have documented I said no. How many of you can say that? How many of you can say that you said no to authoritarianism in all its forms? How many of you were cowards and submitted? I'm seeing a lot. I'm seeing a lot of people that I love become pod people overnight. You're scary, scary people. And I hate that I live in a land with you. I feel very threatened on all sides. Left, right, and everywhere else. Even though I know 80+% of us, if we could come to see it, we would know that we are all willing to live under the Bill of Rights standards, and that alone. That is our governing principle. Everything goes around that. Bill of Rights standards. You have a government that is limited by the Bill of Rights. You have businesses that are limited by the Bill of Rights. Doesn't really matter. You can do whatever else you want. As long as you can't violate our Bills of Rights, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't. But you don't want to do that. You want to create new morality constructs that not only continue to violate our Bills of Rights, as this land has done almost from the start, but you actually just want to get rid of them altogether and just brush them aside. Hate speech laws, hate crimes, all that subhumanizing, demonizing garbage that gives power to citadelians to literally govern thought. That's what you're advocating for, all of you right now. You are all. There were two faces in Germany in the Christian movement. Overwhelmingly, the Christians chose Hitler. The Christians chose Hitler because they're cowards. Most humans are cowards. And mostly we're cowards because we were brought up to be afraid. We were raised by our state schools to be afraid. And then there is the Christians who said no. The ones who are willing to die to say no. That's me. I'm that person. I am willing to die to say no to you. I say no to Donald Trump and his authoritarian collection of human beings through this whole illegal alien garbage. I say no to that. I've said no to that from the start. But I also say no to you, BLM. You sold out. Until last week, whenever anybody asked me about BLM, I'd say, you know what? Depends. You have to talk to the person. Now, no more. You're done. You're done in my eyes. You sold out. The billionaires came and said, take our money. And you know when they say take our money, they say strings. And you little BLMers, you said, yes, Amasa. Yes, Amasa, we'll be your house slaves. We'll put these field slaves back in line. Yes, Amasa. That's the BLM. That's you. That's your leadership. You said yes to billionaires. You said yes to white power. White power now rules you. You're white power now. Face of BLM is a white billionaire. That's the BLM now. All right, now I'm going to do the news poem. Yeah. All right, let's suck it up. Let's get this done, ladies and gentlemen. 3, 2, 1. This is the news poem for Frico Talks the News for Friday, June 12th, 2020. Today's news poem, Millipede Sex in a Time of Lasers. There's a twist. Millipede sex, pseudopolydesmus. That was the name of my first wife. I don't have a first wife. I only have one. I only had one wife. Micro CT images, Xavier Zalny, and University of California, Davis. News first, poem follows. This is an excerpt from Real Clear Science. The Hidden World of Millipede Sex. Last summer, evolutionary biologist Xavier Zalny invited fellow millipede researchers to a visual treat. A PhD student at the University of California, Davis, Zalny had just produced digital images showing the rarely seen insides of the male sexual organ or genopod of the millipede Pseudopolydesmus serratus. Millipede sex is a shrouded affair that happens between rows of legs. Now, there is a sentence that is, I guess, in millipede world, this is a porn movie. Hey, did you see that one? Millipede sex is a shrouded affair that happens between rows of legs. No, it'd just be called Behind Rows of Legs. That's it. Behind Rows of Legs. Yo, man, you see that new Behind Rows of Legs? Oh, baby, you see that? Them vulvas. I'll get to that. A female millipede's sexual organs, a pair of vulva, see, told you, are located in the third body segment from the head. When she is ready to mate, she pushes her vulva out from behind her legs. Yo, babies, look at this. The male's like, wait, hold on. I can't say what I heard in my head. It would be considered sexist, even though it's funny. The male grabs her with his many legs, then clasps her vulvae with his 2 gonopods, each just a millimeter long, and inserts a hairy stub on the surface of a gonopod in the female. Since 1931, Millipede researchers have suspected that a tube called a seminal canal highlight that, in the gonopod carries sperm directly out of this stub and into the female. In a 2019 review paper of the Genius Pseudopolydemus, Zonley and his colleagues supported the same idea, but nobody had the opportunity to verify this. Pause. Until now. They looked inside the animals using an imaging technique called microcomputed tomography, or micro-CT, which shoots X-rays at a specimen to produce a series of grayscale images in which denser parts of the specimen show up brighter. Zonley's micro-CT images revealed a surprising... Oh, gosh. I'll read it. Zonley's micro-CT images revealed a surprising twist in how a male millipede delivers sperm. You'll get it in a second. Rather than, unless you read ahead, in which case, shame on you. Rather than confirm that the seminal canal leads directly to the hairy stub outlet, the images showed instead that the canal bypasses the hairy stub and sends the sperm into a chamber. Only then does the sperm exit through the hairy stub. So the hairy stub's the thing, man. The hairy stub's the thing. That's the missile. Ugh. Hairy stub missile. The canal makes a complete loop, which is totally mental. Wait. Zonley says. The canal makes a complete loop, which is totally mental, says Zonley. And not at all what we described in our 2019 paper. We were wrong! I hope you didn't lose your job over it. These days. All right. And here's the news poem. When do we get to the news poem part? Makes a complete loop, which is totally mental. Looped. The magical form, the spice, the flavor that breathes a multiplicity of millipedals as the sun shone on the concrete where he curled himself for a moment before he set off for the grass. Digesting the internal process, the micro-lasered factors map out of the loop. The seminal display tucked under a nest of eggs. Disturbed, broken in flow, the 2 fuzzy men shake themselves into the vulvae. 2 dreams that deciphered the sun's heaviness on the affair, but perceived it's time to push on. The seed dropped, the vulvatic swirls into the loops that go round and round and round and round, makes a complete loop, which is totally mental. That's the end of the news poem. Don't forget to tip your Frico at Frico.com tips. I'm sure you ain't going to want to tip me today, because I probably, been one of them days. Been one of them shows. But if you still love me after this, send me your money. Or something. That sound bitchy? Whew. Alrighty. Oh, there you go. Wow. How do I have... Oh, I have 2 of these. I do have 2 of these. I do. You're the one I don't want. You're too small. That's right. I forgot to take you down. I put this one up and I forgot to take that one down. There we go. That's better that way. It's better this way, friends and family and whatnot. Well, this has been quite a show, and I am still able, though. I am able, and you know what? Why isn't it here? Let me put this up here. I am absolutely able to change this. I'll make you a little bigger. Yeah. I'm going to change this because I did not. This was such a hard show for me. I am so... again, I'm not angry today. I'm kind of heartbroken, I guess. That's what I am. I'm heartbroken. Because I know that there's a pretty good chance that we're in this for a little while. There will be a freedom that comes, a liberty that comes. They can't keep tech contained from us forever. But the next few years, I don't know if I'll survive them. I'm going to be noticed because I'm a loudmouth, and I cannot just stay silent. But if I do, there's tremendous opportunities on the other side where we can maybe see an America come into being that was promised and never fulfilled, where we can actually see a diverse America in which the American identity isn't white or black or anti-white or anti-black. It's just human. It's the world. The face of America is the world. Because if America is the world, then America is the greatest nation on planet Earth. Because it's the world. It's the only nation that can be the world. That's my supposition. All right. I'm going to leave. I don't even think I'm going to do the end closing this time. Just going to end the stream. Because it's been that kind of day. And it's been a long show. Way longer than I wanted. Hour and 40 minutes.